Every time we sit down to look at what is happening with this Ravens team up front, it feels like we are watching the same scene play out on repeat. You turn on the tape, you slow it down, you run it back, and somehow the issues keep staring you right in the face. It is wild to think that with so many signs pointing to trouble, the coaching staff still seems hesitant to shake things up in a meaningful way. We are talking about a group that has watched practically every lineman on that unit go through rough patches this season. Some guys have had tough moments. Others have had entire stretches where nothing seems to click. And all of that adds up quickly when you are trying to protect a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who has already taken way more hits than anyone is comfortable with. And that is where the conversation around Emory Jones starts to get interesting, because throwing him out there, man, that is a real gamble. Not the small kind you forget about after a few drives, but the kind that makes an entire fan base sit forward. He is unpredictable. You could get a pleasant surprise, or you could get a performance that forces everyone into panic mode. It gives off the same vibe as that moment when Shader Sanders stepped in recently, and nobody knew if it would spark something or sink everything. Not the same situation, but the same energy of uncertainty that makes you hold your breath. But even with that uncertainty, maybe the Ravens need to take that swing. Staying stuck with what is not working has its own risks, and honestly, the floor cannot get much lower than some of the sequences we have watched from this offensive line lately. The encouraging part is that Jones seems to be inching closer to being game ready. That alone gives you a little jolt of curiosity. Will they actually give him a chance once he gets the green light? No one knows. But the idea of trying something different finally has some momentum behind it. And maybe that is a sign that change is coming. While all this is happening, Tyler Linderbaum stepped up and said something that probably needed to be said weeks ago. He owned the problems. He did not sugarcoat anything. He talked about the red zone issues. He talked about missed assignments. And he flat out said that they are not running the ball well enough down there. That is a center taking responsibility the way leaders are supposed to. He made it clear that if the run game is stalling, the blame starts with the guys up front. You have to respect that. When a player takes accountability like that, it carries more weight than any coach stepping to the podium and dancing around the topic. And he is right. Baltimore has the talent on offense to punch the ball, and more often, you see the potential every week. But potential does not matter if you are kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. When Linderbaum says they need to finish drives, you can feel the urgency in his voice. It is rare to get that level of honesty mid-season, especially from someone in the trenches who absorbs a lot of criticism without always getting the spotlight when things go well. His words carry energy, and maybe that sparks something for the rest of the unit. When you shift from accountability to availability, things get even trickier. The injury report heading into Week 12 looks like a novel, and not a fun one. Lamar Jackson has been battling what feels like a carousel of leg injuries. First the hamstring, then the knee, now the ankle. You can see the toll of it with every awkward hit he takes. It is clear he is not fully healthy, but he keeps pushing himself out there because the team needs him. Whether he practices or not determines how the rest of the week goes for Baltimore. And fans are glued to every update, and Lamar is not alone. Rashod Bateman dealing with an ankle issue. Kyle Hamilton dinged up in multiple places. Isaiah Likely with a calf problem. Keaton Mitchell with ribs. Roquan Smith with his hamstring. Ronnie Stanley dealing with illness. Even a few linemen have foot problems. It is a lot. It is the kind of list that makes you exhale loudly and hope the trainers are working miracles behind the scenes. But thankfully, there is a little bit of light. Marlon Humphrey returned in limited fashion, and Justice Hill got in a full session. Not enough to fix everything, but enough to keep spirits from dipping to low. All of this becomes even more important when you realize the Ravens are playing the games in for days. You have the Jets coming up, and then immediately a Thanksgiving showdown with Cincinnati. That is a brutal stretch for any team, especially one that has already been dealing with a heavy injury load. Resting veterans right now might actually be the smartest move they can make, even if it creates a little anxiety for fans watching the injury reports scroll across the screen. And speaking of the Jets, this matchup suddenly has a twist. Instead of Justin Fields, they will be rolling out Tyrod Taylor, a familiar face to anyone who has followed Baltimore for long enough. It is funny how often the Ravens end up facing one of their former quarterbacks. You go back to that 2022 meeting when Joe Flacco was starting for New York, And now here we go again with another ex-Raven under center, but this time, it is not nostalgia driving the decision. The Jets reached a breaking point with their quarterback situation, and they felt they had no choice but to make a switch. Tyrod is not the future for them, but the locker room needed something different. Their young roster needed something different. Their coaching staff needed something different. Sometimes you cannot keep rolling with a plan that is clearly stalling out. Taylor may not transform their season, but he gives them a competent veteran presence who will at least push the ball when he sees a window. Fields had become so hesitant that the offense was stuck in mud. No unit can survive that week after week. So now the Jets get a chance to evaluate their playmakers with a quarterback who is willing to take shots. And that alone changes the dynamic, and that is where the intrigue grows for Baltimore. Because while the Ravens' defense has been trending sharply upward, the threat of a quarterback willing to test them vertically always brings a different kind of challenge. The secondary has been playing strong, the pass rush has found new life, and the overall confidence has soared since the bye week early in the season. This defense looked lost. They were giving up points at alarming rates, missing tackles, getting pushed off the ball, and barely pressuring anyone. But since the reset, they have found rhythm, aggression, and an identity again. This matchup suddenly becomes a story of two teams trying to prove something. The Jets looking for stability, the Ravens looking to show that their surge is not a temporary spark. And everything that happens in the trenches, everything tied to who protects well and who collapses first, is going to shape this game more than anything else. When you start digging deeper into what this matchup means, the conversation naturally shifts back to the trenches. Because everything Baltimore wants to accomplish begins there. For years, the Ravens built their identity on winning at the line of scrimmage. They pushed people around. They set the tone physically. They were teams down until the fourth quarter looked like a conditioning test they were uniquely prepared for. But this season, that foundation has not been nearly as sturdy as it used to be. They are still fighting, still competing, but not consistently overwhelming opponents the way fans grew accustomed to. And when that part of your identity begins to wobble, everything else becomes harder. That is why the possibility of lineup changes creates so much buzz. Even the idea of a new face stepping in, even for a few drives, gives you something to think about. It gives you the sense that maybe the spark they need is hidden somewhere on that sideline. Because as it stands, the Ravens cannot afford to waste possessions anymore. Every drive matters when you are trying to climb above 500 and chase down the division leader. Every missed assignment turns into a hit on Lamar Jackson, and every hit he takes becomes another reminder that this team is walking a tightrope at the most important position in the sport. When you look at the Jets' defense, that challenge gets even tougher. They may not have the same intimidating front they had before recent roster changes, but they still bring speed, length, and energy. They still have edge rushers who can win with quickness, interior defenders who can collapse pockets, and young playmakers eager to prove they belong in long-term plans. Will McDonald has been one of the biggest surprises of their season. With the way he has turned raw athleticism into production, that creates a real test for Baltimore, especially for the tackles, who have had some of their roughest outings this year against players just like him, and that pressure puts a spotlight on Derrick Henry. Because the Ravens need him now more than ever. He was brought in to bring back the physical punch this offense was missing. A power runner like him can make life easier for the lineman, the quarterback, and everyone involved in the offense when he gets downhill early. It forces defenses to tackle with commitment instead of exploding off the edge, with their ears pinned back. But if your line cannot open lanes consistently, even a powerhouse like Henry starts running uphill. That is why the accountability liner Baum Express matters so much. They know the offense can be elite if the run game heats up, and they know they are the ones responsible for making that happen. On the Jets side, Tyrod Taylor adds a layer of unpredictability because he is not afraid to take off when the pocket collapses. The Ravens have seen that style before, but it always forces extra discipline from a defense. Contained lanes have to be sharp. Blitzes have to be timed correctly. Safeties cannot fall asleep on deep shots when a quarterback suddenly rolls into space. And with some of the young receivers the Jets are rotating in, you never know who is going to step up. Sometimes all a young player needs is a quarterback willing to give him a chance. For Baltimore's secondary, this is a stretch where depth gets tested. Nate Wiggins has looked like a rising star. Arthur Mollett has given them grit. Hamilton has been a Swiss Army knife, moving everywhere from the slot To the box, to the edge, Marlon Humphrey working his way back gives this group a boost. But no one knows how quickly he will find rhythm, even when healthy. Defensive backs need reps to get timing right, and with 2 games packed tightly together, that window becomes tiny. But the Ravens' defense has embraced the challenge. They have leaned into the aggressive approach we saw last season. Mixing in pressure looks that confuse quarterbacks and force mistakes. The Jets know that too, which is why this game becomes a battle of execution. Baltimore wants to dictate the pace, force Taylor into quick decisions, and take away the first read. New York wants to stretch the field, open space underneath, and challenge the Ravens to tackle consistently. And with no Garrett Wilson available, this becomes a stage for someone unexpected to rise. That unpredictability always creates another layer of tension. But maybe the most fascinating part of this matchup is how different both teams feel from what people expected just a month ago. The Ravens looked like they were falling apart defensively, failing to generate pressure, struggling to get off the field, and allowing explosive plays left and right. Now they look like a completely different group. Meanwhile, the Jets were still holding out hope that Justin Fields could be the answer long term. But his hesitancy turned every drive into a marathon with no finish line. Now they are looking at a veteran stepping in to steady the ship, even if the season's bigger goals have already slipped away. This game becomes a measurement of growth for the Ravens. It is about proving that what they have done since the bye is not temporary. It is about proving the defense can win even when the offense sputters. It is about proving they can survive injuries, adjust when needed, and keep their season moving forward. For the Jets, it is about proving they still have stability inside the locker room. It is about proving they can compete with a team that has found its rhythm. It is about proving their young pieces are worth building around. And while all of that is unfolding, Lamar Jackson's situation sits quietly in the background, influencing everything without dominating the conversation. You can tell he wants to push through every injury, but the hits are adding up. The offense needs to be able to support him, not force him to play superhero every week when he is healthy and protected. He is one of the most electric players in the league, but when he is limping, pressured, and constantly scrambling for his life, even his magic has limits. Baltimore knows that. And every decision they make from here forward has to be shaped by the priority of keeping him upright. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Mark Andrews has reportedly left fans in shock and disbelief after what insiders are calling a secret negotiation that could shake the foundation of his current team. Sources close to this situation suggest that the star tight end engaged in talks behind closed doors, bypassing the usual channels of communication with team management and, most importantly, the loyal fan base. The whispers began circulating hours after the news broke, and social media exploded with accusations of betrayal and disloyalty. Fans have taken to forums and Twitter, expressing their outrage in strong terms, with some even questioning Andrews' commitment to the team that has supported him since his early days. "I can't believe he would do this without telling anyone," one fan tweeted. Another commented, "Feels like a stab in the back. He's turning his back on the fans who cheered for him through everything." The intensity of the reaction suggests this is more than just disappointment. It's a sense of personal betrayal, and it's growing by the hour. Insiders claim that the discussions may involve a move to a rival franchise, though nothing has been confirmed officially. The speculation alone has fueled wild theories about the player's motives, from chasing bigger contracts to seeking more championship opportunities, leaving fans torn between anger and curiosity. Team analysts are cautiously weighing in, noting that while negotiations in professional sports are common, secrecy of this magnitude is unusual for a player of Andrews' stature and popularity. The timing of these whispers is also raising eyebrows, with some suggesting that the move, if true, could dramatically alter team dynamics and strategy. Coaches and teammates have reportedly been blindsided, sparking intense locker room chatter. Meanwhile, fan groups have organized virtual campaigns expressing disappointment and urging transparency. The buzz is relentless, with every interview, tweet, and public appearance scrutinized for clues. As this story develops, one thing is certain: Mark Andrews' name is trending in a way rarely seen for a player of his position. Supporters and critics alike are waiting with bated breath for an official statement, wondering whether this rumored secret deal will come to fruition. or if it will fade as just another tantalizing rumor in the high-stakes world of professional sports. For now, the air is thick with speculation, and the whispers aren't going away anytime soon. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.